Hi everyone, Tim Vipond here. I'm excited to build this dashboard with you together in Excel, and we're going to build it in a matter of minutes. You can see the final product here that we're going to create together, so you know where we're headed. Now let's jump over into Excel and start building it together. Here we are in the Excel file, and you can download a copy of this in the comments below or the description below this video so that you can build it yourself and come along with me. But what you'll notice is we have some raw data on the right. And it's not a large amount of information actually. It's just a few years of revenue, costs, expenses, and so on. And we can use that small set of information to build this very informative dashboard. If we go to page break preview, you'll see that we've set up the shape of the dashboard. You can actually drag this and move it around to fit a size that you want. This is the layout that I liked. You could also go to page layout orientation and say choose landscape, or in this case we wanted it to be portrait. And once you've set that up, you can then start building the dashboard. We can go back to normal view. We have a heading across the top. We simply typed in this title, added our logo, and the first graph that we're going to build together right here is business unit revenue. You'll notice this business has 3 units. So what we're going to do is just go select this information here, go insert, and in this case we want a stacked column chart. Select the stacked column chart, bring it in here, size it up, and let's talk about formatting here because formatting matters a lot. Let's delete the grid lines. If we go to select data, we can make sure that we have the right axis labels, which are these labels here. So we can see those labels there. If I right click on one of the bars and format data series, I can see this on the right, the gap width. I want to bring that down to be 80%. It makes the columns wider, and I think that looks better. We can then click on one of the series and change the color. Solid fill. If we go under recent, I'll have it easily accessible for me here. Select the second series. Let's go to another solid fill color, and then finally the top one, which we want to highlight. So the top one is series 3, but we don't know what series 3 is. That doesn't mean much, does it? So let's make sure that we put series names on these. So we've got business unit 1, business unit 2, select the series name, right? And then business unit 3, just make sure we have the right one here. That's the data. And when you click on this drop down, that's the series name. Click OK, scroll over. All right, now we've got a nice legend. We can also click on this graph and get rid of the border. I don't think we need a border. The default in Excel is to add a border. I'm actually not a huge fan of it. We can also delete the title because we have the title up here, which is business unit revenue. And of course, you can see we're grabbing the business unit revenue information there on the right. Let's just size this to be a little bigger. There we go. Now, let's suppose we want to add financial figures to this. I want to add the total across the top, but you'll notice that I haven't actually graphed the total, this number here. So in order to add the total, this is a common challenge to experience. I'm going to actually add here the total, but what it's going to do, as you'll see when I add it here, is mess up the chart. It's now adding the total on top of that, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is right click on this, change chart type. I now want to have a combo, and I want the very last one to be a line chart. By doing that, this is a bit of a trick. By doing that, I can then right click on it, add data labels, format data labels, and place them above. Let's also put them in thousands as opposed to just regular numbers. So to do that, click on the axis, format axis. We go to units here, and we change these to be thousands. There we go. Let's now reformat this to have no line and no marker. And now we've got a sneaky workaround way to have the total displayed across the top. So this is a very common technique to have to do when building a dashboard. Now let's look at the next thing, which is going to be gross profit and profit margin. I'm going to copy this chart and paste it here just to save time because we've got some good colors and things going on with it. Now we're going to select the data. I'm going to remove 2 of those business units, and for business unit 1, where I just want to see gross profit, I'm going to select this data here. And then for series 2, which is going to be the profit margin, I'm going to select that percentage there, press OK. Now what I'm going to do is select data. Pardon me. What I'm going to now do is change chart type. Let's just make this, something different, like this kind of marker chart. Here we go. And then go back to change chart type again. We want to make sure we put it on the secondary axis. That's the key to being able to see it. So it's on the secondary axis now. We can change the color of it to be a company color. I'll use another company color for the columns here. I'm going to then format the markers. So we go to the marker, and let's change the color of the marker to be something else, some other company color like this. Oh, that didn't work out too well. So no border, just a solid fill. There we go. We can then add data labels to these so that we can see the number on top. Now let's format these data labels. They're very hard to see. We want them at the inside end. Let's make them white. Let's also grab this, right click, add data label, right click on the data labels and format them. We want this data label. Actually, I'm actually going to go with below and make it white, and you'll see why I'm going to do that in a second. I'm now going to change the axis here. So I think it'll look a little better if I significantly change the axis, let's say to show up to 40%, to push the margin down. I think this looks better to now have the percentage here and the gross profit here. Let's select this data. And we're actually going to call this gross profit. You can enter the name of it here. And this one we're going to call margin. Press OK. All right, that's looking good. So we've got our legends below these charts. Sometimes I like to take the legends and bring them up to the top. Sometimes I find that it just is a little better spacing wise that way. Okay, so we've got our first 2 charts here. All right, that's looking really nice. Now let's do cumulative revenue next. To do this, we are going to insert, go to charts, add a waterfall chart. Here it is. Bring that down into place. Select data. Under select data, we want to add a series. We're going to do this waterfall in year 0, and we want to have a waterfall that shows business unit 1, 2, 3, and then consolidated. So this time we actually want to show the total. Let's remove series 1. Let's make sure we have the right data selected here. We do. Then let's select the labels here, press OK, and move over. Now right click on the last one. And then what we need to do is indicate that this is the final data point set as total. So setting it as total gives us this format that we want here that shows it as the grand total. Now it's just going to be a matter of formatting to get this how we want it to look. So let's suppose that we want to make the grand total blue, and then we want to focus on one particular business unit 3. So we're going to highlight business unit 3 with emphasis. This is a key part of dashboarding, is figuring out what to emphasize. So we've done that. Let's format the chart area to have no line. Let's also select the grid lines and delete them. We can also delete the axis on the left, and then we can add data labels to this. And then what we can do, if we actually undo this, go back to format the axis, we want to make the units there. Thousands. Then we add the data labels. Now this looks more like what we want. Then we can delete the axis on the left. We can also delete the chart title. And finally, we can delete the legend. And now we can see this cumulative chart, which is a nice way to visualize the relative sizes of the business units. Okay, let's move on to look at another type of chart, which is going to come right up here in expenses. So what we'll do is select all the expenses for these periods, click under charts, all charts, and this is going to be called a area chart. And we want a stacked area chart. Press OK and bring that down. Right click, select data. Suppose we want to change the order of these. We want to have the biggest at the bottom and the smallest at the top. I can just use the arrows to change the order of things. And then I can select here the axis label range. Press OK. Let's just take a look at this. Now, if you're not seeing all of the data series, click Change Chart Type and make sure you have the proper stacked area chart here. It's critical to have that. Then we right-click, select Data, and now we can change the order properly here. So let's move this one up. Or move that one down, I should say. The order doesn't really matter. It's just whatever point you want to make here as to what you put at the top or bottom. Now let's fill these with brand colors, of course. Select that last one. It's a bit hard to click on. We might have to zoom in. There we go. And zoom out. All right, now we can delete the title. Format this to be in thousands, just like with all the others. Delete the grid lines. Bring the legend up to the top. And let's make sure we select the appropriate names for these series. So this one is interest. This one is DNA. This one is rent and overhead. And the last one is going to be salaries and benefits then. So now we have the legend at the top. It's looking a bit tight the way it's displayed like that. So let's bring it out this way. There you go. You can play around with the formatting of that. Let's get rid of the border and then resize it. Next up, we're going to move on to create a bit of a table of information. We're going to show some 5-year averages and then the trend using Sparklines. So I think you'll find this part pretty cool. Let's type equals average, open bracket, go up to revenue, select the total, close bracket, enter. Then let's do the same thing for cost of goods sold. Let's do total expenses. Going over here to total expenses, selecting that, close bracket. Profit margin, that's simply going to be revenue, average revenue minus cost of goods sold minus expenses. That's going to give us the average profit margin, and then as a margin percentage, we can just calculate it here. So there we go. Now we're going to insert the Sparklines. Go to Insert. And then let's just find Sparklines here. So first we're going to do a column. We'll select the revenue years, press OK. Then let's do COGS, Insert, Column, Sparkline. Select that information. It's pretty cool how it makes these tiny little graphs right inside the cell for us. Insert, column, Sparklines, expenses, or operating expenses, you could call that. Let's insert this one. Here's our profit margin. And then profit margin percent, we can do that as well. All right, so there you have the Sparklines. Next, we are going to do them again, but we're going to just show you how to do the same thing with the line version. So you can link this up yourself. We might skip over this part in the actual video. It's a bit tedious to watch all this stuff get linked up. But this is what we're going to do now. So we can see these trends 2 different ways. Wait, let's redo this one. And then the last one is going to be the profit margin percent. All right, there we go. Next up, we can build this table where we're going to look at some income statement information. So let's link up this information. Notice that it's all pertaining to year 0. Okay, we're just picking a single point in time. We're going to pick the actual revenue figures from the and actual cost of goods sold, etc., from this single point in time. Okay, I'm just linking it up quickly for you here. And then next we're going to compare that to the budget. So here we have revenue, COGS, expenses, profit margin in terms of dollars, and then profit margin in terms of percentage. And the difference is going to be the variance. So the actual minus the budget, That's the variance, which we can paste for each of these. The last one, we need to make this a percent. Alt-HP is the shortcut to do that. We might want to add 1 decimal place. There we go. All right, now let's calculate the variance percentage. That's going to be equal to the actual divided by the budget minus 1. Not minus 12, minus 1. I can copy this and paste as formula. F4 is the way to repeat that action. So I go down a few times and repeat that action. And if I press Control 1, you'll notice that we have a custom number here that we've created for you, but you can play with this on your own. If a number's positive, we've inserted this little up arrow, and if it's negative, we've inserted this little down arrow. We find this formatting really highlights for variance analysis if something is above or below. It really hammers the point home. The other thing we've done is use conditional formatting. You can go to Manage Rules here. We've used conditional formatting to make rules to say that if it's a favorable variance, like in the case of revenue here being up, it's blue. If it's an unfavorable variance, in the case of cost of goods sold being up, that's orange. So you can play with this conditional formatting yourself. We cover that in other videos, but this is a great way to display variance analysis. Now, the last thing we're going to do here is just put a little summary P&L for year 0. So the summary P&L is going to include revenue, COGS. We also want to have salaries, benefits, and these items that we can fill down with Control D. Alt equals is the quick auto sum function. And then we can calculate the difference of those. So revenue minus cost of goods sold minus all the other expenses gives us our net profit. Now we also want to show a balance sheet, and we've provided that information on the right. We're just going to link it in so that everything in the dashboard is a formula. Now we can equal total assets, current liabilities, fill this down with Control D, and then the last one is equal to this, and the balance sheet balances. So there we have it. Let's go to View, Page Break Preview, and make sure everything looks good. We might need to just tweak the position of some of these a tiny bit to make sure they're fitting right on the page. Okay, and look at that. All of a sudden now we have completed our beautiful dashboard that really highlights performance for a business. It gives a high-level overview. It goes into details like variance analysis here. We show you do some cool things like Sparklines, lots of different types of charts and graphs. So hopefully this has been a powerful lesson for you on how to make a dashboard in a very short amount of time. It's all dynamic, it's all linked up. All you have to do is change the numbers here on the side, and everything in this dashboard updates for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this dashboard tutorial.